Commissioner Morissette.
Here.
Commissioner Wall. I know she'll be joining us. Commissioner Silverstein is here, so we have a quorum. So we're going to start with approval of the May 19th meetings. Need a motion for approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
We had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Field Enforcement Director's Report. Bill George.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners and everyone else on the meeting. It's an honor to speak with you this afternoon. We've had a very active period since our last meeting. Our enforcement agents working in the field have discovered 14 separate violations since that meeting, 8 of which were in occurred during retail inspections. One was an inspection of a statewide alcohol permit holder. One was an out-of-state surveillance operation that resulted in a violation, and 4 separate surveillance operations that revealed street vendors of alcoholic beverages. There were 6 alcohol violations and 8 tobacco violations. The jurisdictions that these violations were discovered in were Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Prince George's County, Garrett County, and Montgomery County. As a result, our agents seized 294 packs of untaxed cigarettes, 55,714 sticks of untaxed other tobacco products, 166 containers of infused distilled spirits with fruit juices or Jello, and 7 containers of distilled spirits. Those violations resulted in investigations that also resulted in 15 separate individuals being charged with criminal violations, ranging from possession of untaxed cigarettes and other tobacco products, alcohol sales without a license, possession of alcoholic beverages from other than a wholesaler in a retail establishment. In addition to the inspection and enforcement activities, our Regulatory Administrative Services Bureau licensing unit issued 187 licenses and permits since our last meeting. We've also been busy preparing a new application for remote tobacco sellers license application that is in a final approved state, and it's currently in the comptroller's forms group possession for final adjustments, and it will soon be available online. That license cycle is new, and it will begin July 1st. Last month, I spoke of a feasibility study that we were working on and was due to the governor's office and the General Assembly. I expected to have it to you prior to, or be able to present a version of it to you during this meeting, but due to staffing issues with our key members involved in the production of that, being out on extended sick leave, it's not complete. But that particular feasibility study it looks at the feasibility of maintaining a statewide database of all alcoholic beverage licensees to be updated annually, and a database of individuals trained and licensed by an authorized alcohol awareness training program. I hope to have the final version to you soon. As far as enforcement goes, and the activities of our Administrative Services Bureau, that's it for me. Yep. And if you have any questions, I'm glad to entertain them.
What is a remote tobacco seller's license?
It is a license now that's required for anyone who wants to sell premium tobacco or pipe tobacco or premium cigars into the state from out of the state. Previously, it could be done, but it didn't require this license. We are requiring a license now, and we are requiring some other things, some other tax implications relative to that, and that the comptroller's office is requiring. But for a business to sell into the state from out of the state, those products, the premium cigar and the pipe tobacco, there's now a license required.
Okay.
I had a quick question related to that as well. Is that regulatory or legislative? That like the decision?
That particular license was created by legislation and goes into effect July 1st, 2022.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, legal and legislative director report, Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, just very quickly to give the commission an update. If you recall, I discussed last meeting House Bill 837, which required the Alcohol Tobacco Commission and the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission to work together to create recommendations for the structure of an agency if the legislature intends to take the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission and put it under the Alcohol Tobacco Commission. The study is due at the end of December of 2022. We are making some headway and some progress. When we put things down to paper, we will share with the commission kind of some of the preliminary findings that we've made in cooperation with the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission. We're not at that stage yet. We're early in the discussions, but we just want to let the commission know those discussions are ongoing and will continue throughout the summer.
Okay.
The next matter, unless anybody had any questions or concerns, is the rules and regulations update. As the commission was made aware last month, the Alcohol Tobacco Commission representatives, Office of the Executive Director, his staff, as well as the head of law and policy from the Comptroller's Office were working together over the last couple of months to do a recodification of the current COMAR regulations that are in the name of the Comptroller, but actually it is the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission that does those actual things in terms of monitoring trade practices within the alcohol tobacco industry. So we recodified that language. We've submitted it to the Attorney General's office for a review. It's currently being reviewed right now. We should have a final stamp of approval within the coming weeks. And it's at that time that we will submit those draft rules and regulations to the Division of State Documents for approval and publication in the Maryland Register. So that is coming. And then there'll be a part 2 of that. So this part 1 is just a recodification. Part 2 will be building out something more robust where the Alcohol Tobacco Commission hasn't necessarily addressed, where we're talking about electronic smoking devices. We're talking about other tobacco products, things of that nature, some alcohol awareness, tweaks that we could see in the rules and regulations. But that's more of a second half of the year. This first half of the year, we just want to make sure that we get these COMAR regs in the name of the Alcohol Tobacco Commission so that our authority to regulate in these matters is clear.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has any other questions, doesn't have any other questions, I'll move to the next matter. Okay. As to Commissioner Morissette raised an issue last meeting in regards to shelf stocking. We had talked about bulletins and things that the agency does, and we specifically discussed shelf stocking, and we would discuss that specific issue at today's meeting. I created a very quick PowerPoint presentation to roll through just so that we give more information to the board, more information to stakeholders regarding shelf stocking. If nobody has any preliminary questions, I will move on to share my screen.
Okay.
Can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So just quickly today, we're going to talk about wholesaler-retailer relationships. We're going to be talking about services to a retailer, shelf management, and then finally, we're going to end with shelf stocking. So relationships between wholesalers and retailers. The law is actually pretty clear on the prohibitions between these two groups. So the law is actually stated there. It's 2315 of the Alcoholic Beverages article, and it's pretty clear. There are 3 main points that I want to emphasize here. First, the law restricts a wholesaler from having a financial interest in a licensed retail establishment. It also prevents that wholesaling entity, and when we're talking about wholesalers, we're talking about the distributors in the state of Maryland. I see Randy's on the call. He represents Southern Glaciers, which is a wholesaler that sells to Maryland retailers. So we're talking about that level of the three-tier system. We have manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers. So along those lines, this wholesaling entity can't give a thing of value, make a gift, or order a gratuity to a retailer. The retail dealer also cannot accept or receive or make use of money, a gift, or an advertisement provided by a wholesaling entity. And it becomes clear, like, it is this thing of value that really is what the center of conversation in regards to this presentation. So I'll go on to the next slide, which is that value. So we first see it in the law, which restricts giving something of value from a wholesaler to a retailer. And in the rules and regulations, our rules and regulations really embody this. And it's under our regulation concerning services to a retailer. And again, you're going to see this. A licensed wholesaler may not provide something of value to a licensed retailer. It goes on to talk about relieving. The licensed wholesaler can't do something that would relieve an ordinary business expense of a retailer. Also, a licensed wholesaler can't pretend to strike that. A licensed wholesaler may not move, stock, rotate, or dust, otherwise disturb a competitor's products on a licensed retail premises. And the whole thrust of these rules and regulations is that we don't want, and the rules and the law, the legislators actually don't want the wholesalers to give specific retailers a benefit which would make an unfair playing field. We want a fair playing field where everybody in the marketplace has an equal opportunity to go after that consumer. And so, in our jobs as regulators is ensuring that, there are not inappropriate relationships, so the market is out of balance. That is really the thrust of these rules and regulations. So what does that look like? Shelf management. So when we started with the rules of the law that said you can't have inappropriate relationships, give things of values. Those are codified in the rules and regulations. And now we actually move to the things, which is shelf management. So what is shelf management? Concepts and programs which benefit the licensed retailer in marketing all of the licensed retailer's products. We're talking about data provisions on sales, what is selling, what is hot, what is not, shelf management plans. How should the actual products be marketed? Where should they be placed? How should they be placed? Things of that nature. There are designs and schemes. These are all the shelf management concepts that the wholesaler could actually provide to the retailer. Now, they can only provide the concepts. They can't implement them or physically participate in the stocking or rearranging of shelves. So you can give the plan, and that's something that the wholesalers can afford to any of the retailers, is the plan to market and structure your actual physical product. As a wholesaler, you can't do that. That is the retailer's job to implement that plan. So I kind of made some do's and don'ts of what wholesalers can do under the law. Providing written plans is something that they can definitely do. Creating diagrams, blueprints, and plans, to a retailer on how to structure this product. You can even provide sales information. This product in the summer sells best, so you probably want to buy more of this product versus that product in the winter, that doesn't sell as well. But what can you not do? I mean, clearly a wholesaler can't order or force a retailer to order, that particular product, but they also can't go in and physically restructure a retailer's product. They can't implement that plan. So I wanted to be really clear on some of the do's and don'ts, particularly when it comes to shelf management. Now we have shelf stocking, which is different than shelf management. If shelf management is how should the product look or be placed, shelf stocking is the actual physical stocking of the shelves. And so the regulation here in COMAR is pretty clear. A wholesaler is strictly prohibited from stocking shelves, pricing items, and arranging products, including its own. But there are exceptions, and we'll go over those exceptions in a second. A wholesaler may rotate products when the rotation is performed to ensure product freshness. And there are some products, beer in particular, some malt beverages, things of that nature, that do need to be rotated for freshness. Limited rotation does not include the opening of cases, placing individual bottles on shelves or in coolers, or rearrangement of alcoholic beverages in storage and sales area in less than case lots. And then again, we talked about shelf management. You can't, as a wholesaler, physically implement shelf management. So I want to get to the exceptions because, you know, the exceptions really clarify two things. First, there is an exception for rotation for beer, malt beverage products, wine coolers, and spirit coolers due to limited shelf life. So because there's this idea of first in, first out, and this is product, because these certain products have a certain shelf life, the representative from the wholesaler, when they look at a shelf that is accessible to the consumer, they can rotate this stock product to have the product that was placed there maybe a week ago brought to the front and the freshest product put in the back, so that there's rotation to ensure that that product that has, you know, for lack of a better term, an expiration date is readily facing the consumer. So that's the difference with stock rotation specifically for those products. And that's only for, again, beer, malt beverages, wine coolers, and spirit coolers because they have a limited shelf life. And then the other thing that is allowed is dusting. You're actually allowed to dust your own product, but dusting can't be subterfuge for stocking a shelf. So those are the two exceptions in the law, and I did some do's and don'ts here. You know, a wholesaler that does sell beer, malt beverage products, wine coolers, and spirit coolers can rotate the stock that's on the shelf for product freshness. You can't add to that product. So, for instance, if it's an area that is accessible to the customers, there are other sections in the code that allow specifically beer wholesalers to drop product in various parts of the retailer's location. However, they can't take that product and then begin stocking the shelves of the retailer. That is the retailer's job. They can rotate accessible stock, but they can't add to that stock. And then a wholesaler can, of course, dust the product. I kind of made a note of that, what the wholesaler is prohibited from doing, which is adding to that product. Again, that adding to that shelf space, that's something that the retailer has to do. And then lastly, a wholesaler can't take stock from one shelf location of a store and move it to another, whether it's the storage area or the shelf space that's accessible to the consumer under the guise of rotating for product freshness. So again, that is really the retailer's job, and it, you know, makes for a fair marketplace. The wholesaler delivers the product, the wholesaler can advise the retailer of how best to market the product, but the wholesaler itself can't do that. So I wanted to just go very quickly because Commissioner Morissette had asked about shelf stocking and wanted to give a comprehensive view from the law down to the rules and regulations to the actual practice thereof. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and I will, if you have any questions or concerns, I'm here to address those.
Thank you. I thought that's very thorough.
This is a real tough subject, Eric, in our industry. Remember, I did it for a whole lot of years. You have really, really large retailers that try and push the distributors around to make us do this. And in all honesty, we love these rules and regulations because it stops us from being pushed around. Because it would make it very unfair to the little mom and pop liquor stores. So we love these rules and regulations.
I think this is wonderful. I think the only question I have is, could we make this like the presentation that you just provided, place it on our website just so that it's readily accessible to other folks to just see and reference in the future? I just think it's thank you for doing such a good job in making it so friendly for folks and friendly and clear to understand.
Well, Commissioner Morissette, thank you for that. We are working on our website and building it out, and you better believe that in the next few weeks when we build out our website, because as part of the commission's job, they are to provide educational information to stakeholders, citizens of Maryland, and we feel like this is something that's definitely helpful to our stakeholders out there. And, Commissioner Buck, I'm actually, I'm glad that you're on the call, because definitely hearing your thoughts on that presentation too, having been in the business, is helpful and informative. Does anybody have any additional questions or concerns, or can we move on to the next subject? Oh, Randy.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, request permission to speak. Tom, this was a great presentation, and I certainly also align with Commissioner Buck about that as well. And these rules are great. One question that might come up from industry as this gets posted, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot with this, but you'd mentioned the beer and the wine coolers and things. Would that rotation on the shelf also apply to wine, specifically vintages? Because sometimes you'll have a wine that has a 2022 vintage, and when you get a delivery, the stock person in the store who works for the store will put it up on the shelf so the consumer would see 2022 on the label. However, behind it, further deep in the shelf, the vintage might say 2021. So the winery and the industry would prefer to have that rotated around so that, you know, they don't get confused in the vintages that are on the shelf. So I just submit that with all due respect.
Well, I appreciate, and Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
I appreciate the question, and what Randy's question is really going to is a section of the code or section of the COMAR regs that addresses a shelf life, the shelf life of a product. And so it has been commercially acceptable that there are expiration dates for certain beers, malt beverages, and wine coolers. The same exception has not been applied to spirits and wine. And that is traditional because although you may have a wine product, as Randy is mentioning, which may be a 2021 versus a 2022, traditionally, those are the kind of products that the wholesaler, would create a shelf management plan for to provide the retailer with. And you would say, Mr. or Madam Retailer, these are products that age. They don't traditionally have a shelf life per se, as beer and malt beverages and things of that nature do. And it would probably be best if your retail staff rotate these products in a certain way. And so there's a distinction that's traditionally been made, by the industry, that malt beverage, wine coolers, things of that nature that are meant clearly and explicitly mentioned in the rules are differentiated by wine.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Tom. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Sounds like
I can't stump the band.
sounds like we have an answer. Okay. We're going to move on to the next item, which is new business. And the memorandum of understanding for FY 2022. Each of the commissioners received a copy of the memorandum of understanding among the Comptroller of Maryland, the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, and the Executive Director of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. This memorandum of understanding lays out the roles and responsibilities, how equipment is shared, how everything is moved through COMAR and the legislation that was created in 2019 through the law, Chapter 12. And I wanted to know if anybody had any questions relative to this memorandum of understanding. If not, we as a commission need to approve it, and I need to put my signature on it. So at this time, I'd ask for a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding among the Comptroller of Maryland, the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, and the Executive Director of Alcohol and Tobacco Commission.
So moved.
Okay, need a second?
1 second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will sign this and get it over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Does anybody else have any matters to bring before the commission at this time? If not, I'd ask for a motion for adjournment.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Just one matter. I know, just to let you know, the comptroller's office is in its final stages of review of this. It was approved by the attorney generals. If there are any changes or amendments, we may send that back to you, but I don't want to speak for the comptroller's office at this time. I just know it's in its final stages of review. So if there happens to be an amendment, I will let you and the commission know.
Thank you very much. Okay, motion for adjournment,
So moved.
second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Ah,
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all for joining us. See you next
thank
month.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.